everybody. Obviously my name's Dyer. I work for Dorset Mental Health Forum, and today I'm just going to go over my entry into, through and hopefully out of psychosis. And at the end I will be taking questions if there are any. And within the narrative, the journey, I'd like to maybe just hear and listen to some of the things that have gone on. Some of it might be a little bit distressing, some of it might not be, but that depends on you guys. Okay. So, the aims of today are to talk about my entry in psychosis, to describe my symptoms and how they affected me, to explain what I have done to turn my life around, and to invite debate about how to approach psychosis. Okay, a little bit of background. I was diagnosed with depression in the late 80s. And before we start, I'm not going to tell you my age, you can work that out. But in the late 80s, I actually became very, very depressed, and my life went into a downward spiral. At the time, I didn't know what depression was. I didn't know what depression was. I thought depression was in the 1930s at an event in America. And within this period, I lost everything: my family, my home, basically everything I cared for went. And I also at this time entered mental health services, because within that period, one was a cry for help, one was a serious attempt. I tried to take my life twice. Okay? And that's when the services attached themselves to me, because it's quite a serious thing. But somehow, I got through this period and actually tried to rebuild my life. And it took a while, but I sort of got back on track and started doing the so-called normal things again. I went back into work, tried to build a life. Some of the things had gone forever, but my children did come back to me for a little while. And I had a period of what is called stability, or what I thought was stability. And also I learned the value of actually self-discovery in this period of time, and actually went on a few courses and tried to find out who I was, and took myself to places where I could actually find out my identity. And as I said, at this point, I believe my troubles are behind me, and just carried on in my life. But then in 2008, after a period of lots of work, running around, a few stresses over money, I caught an illness as well, and I never can pronounce the name. It's the norovirus, is it, or something like that? Yeah. Okay, I actually went down with this, but it was quite a severe case of that, and someone's actually said to me, you probably had something else. But within this period, I became really, really unwell, and probably didn't sleep or eat for nearly a month. And things started to go a little bit strange for me after that, in the sense of my behaviour observed by a friend had started to change. And this friend basically said, who knew me from my past as a carer and a friend, could you move in with me so I keep an eye on you? And I agreed to this, because at the time I was working up the M3, doing a lot of work, running around. I had a construction business. And this friend said that she felt she needed to keep an eye on me, take me under her wing a little bit. As I say, I agreed to this, but things under her observation actually started to get worse. Her seeing me not sleeping, pacing the house, getting up very early. I used to get up at 5 o'clock every day and drive up to work, come back late, not sleep, but get up and she said that sometimes I'd be sat there looking quite anxious, quite distressed, and agitated. And it was put to me that I should see a doctor. And initially I said, no, I'm okay. And I carried on working. And then probably a period of time passed and the phone went one day. And it was my local GP, who I'd never met. And he said to me, Rick, what would it take for you to come in and see me? And I actually said, it would take nothing because I'm not coming to see you. And put the phone down. The phone went again about 2 weeks later, and it's the same doctor. And he said, I'll tell you what I do. I clear my surgery, you can get in a car with your friend, drive up to see me, and we can have a chat. To get him off my back, I agreed to do this. So got into a car, drove the surgeon, a man to his word. I walked straight in from the car into his room, and we sat down with my friend and carer, who, unbeknown to me, had been taking notes and writing down things about me, which I agreed she could share with him. And within these notes was her observation of my behaviour. She said lots of nights I'd be walking around the house, listening for things. I'd sometimes shake in the chairs. I'd mentioned to her that I actually felt quite worried about certain things. And I'd also mentioned to her that the house used to sometimes rumble and shake for me. From that meeting with the doctor, I was then taken to St Anne's Hospital. And from that meeting, I was there about 5 hours. But I was actually allowed to go home from that meeting. Went to see my psychiatrist, and then from that point on, after seeing the psychiatrist, I was diagnosed with psychotic depression / bordering on schizophrenia. So, as you can see, I'd had depression before, but now I've got psychotic depression / bordering on schizophrenia. And they allowed me to go home, which I found out later because I hadn't been showing extreme behaviour, but also that I had a caring support system which they felt probably better for me to stay in the house, which I'm thankful for. And then from then on it seemed to just spiral out of control, because from this diagnosis I was then medicated with risperidone, olanzapine, and when times needed, diazepam. Also in this period, my symptoms seemed to escalate. And again, the stuff, what I'd been going through before seemed to get bigger. The lights coming through the windows, it seemed like moving pictures, lots of sounds and noises and the rumblings, and as I said, the house seemed to shake. Within this as well, I would drop into periods where I was absolutely petrified and terrified and very, very scared. And this is when sometimes the crisis team would have to be called in to come out to see me. And I'd be sedated down again and let 3 or 4 days high, upset, distressed. They'd come out, I'd be all right for 3 weeks, and then with all this going on again, they'd come out again, and this just got worse and worse and worse. And I think within a period of a year, I think I had about 7 or 8 interventions of crisis team. But I still stayed within the house. basically living in the fear of the house and all my surroundings, what was going on. But within this period as well, I'd now, for the first year, I basically stopped going out, but I carried on working as well, believe it or not, with all the medication and everything else. Going to work feeling like that. The guys at work were very supportive but not understanding about me, what was actually going on. They just, you all right, Vic? But an event happened at work, which I've not put on there, which actually really brought the hammer down. And I don't know if any of you guys know about laser lights and strobe lights to get dimensions. I was in all the shop, setting out a house, not feeling very well, and someone had set up, it's similar to that, a tripod, and the lights were going around. And I'm working, and I actually saw the lights. And I actually just became paralysed, just collapsed into the trench. And what happened was, the symptoms I'd been getting in the house seemed to have followed me up the M3. From that point on, I was then taken home in a very bad state, and I then didn't leave my house for nearly 2 years. And within that, lots of other things happened. And yes, literally, I went into the house, and I basically didn't go out for nearly 2 years. And all those things I spoke about before just really got big. The acute, I really was deeply paranoid. Had a real fear and anxiety around that I'd actually upset my neighbours with my behaviour, and that at some point I might be extracted out of the house and taken away or got rid of. And it all compounded on me as in this illness. And I could actually feel myself as well physically not very happy, because I'd actually put on nearly 4 stone in weight. I wasn't doing good things around my food. Lots of sugar, lots of salts, lots of drinks, fizzy drinks. I'll jump into that. When you're not well, when you're in a state of situations where you're not actually functioning correctly, you're not actually taking care of yourself that well, you don't know how to. So you do things which you probably wouldn't do if you were functioning normally. So it just got, worse and worse, and I actually just stopped doing. Most of the time I'd be in the house, not moving about, hearing stuff going on, not sleeping very much, and as I said before, sleep, and a lot of you guys know this, sleep is a massive thing, and I wasn't sleeping very much at all throughout this period. For nearly 2.5 years I hardly slept. So it was having a massive impact. And I also, at some point within that as well, had worked out that maybe the medication wasn't doing me any favours either. But I had to take medication, because it would help me to a certain extent. And within that as well, I would self-medicate, because sometimes when you're fully in one of your episodes, you just want to sleep. You just want to get yourself down to a position where you can just chill out and rest the body. So I would take the odd extra olanzapine. I would take a couple more diazepam just to get me down. And again, I didn't know I shouldn't be. You do things when you're in a situation where you need to get some relief. But as I said, this went on for quite some time, 2 years nearly, and I was really fed up with it. I had no life, and I was actually impacting. I wasn't seeing any friends and family, and I want to just talk about this bit here. Contemplating how to end it. Now, when I was depressed in the late 80s, that was I suppose, I look back on it now and look at that as a bit of a sulking everything's gone wrong, I don't want to be around because my life's finished. And I was probably feeling sorry for myself. And that's why I probably decided to maybe do something a bit extreme and get go. But this second contemplation around it was because of the living hell I was in. I just didn't envisage a future and a life beyond the illness. So part of me worked out, do I want to be living for the next 6 months, 10 years like this? No, I don't. And I think that's the people have said to me, what was the crunch point? What was the turning point? And I think it was this period, because I actually didn't want to be around living in this world I had. That's why I wanted to go. I always remember I woke up one day downstairs on the couch, and I'd been shaking all night, thinking that was the night that I was going to probably be extracted from the house and got rid of. And I always remember my carer friend came down and she said all she saw was this white duvet and this quivering, shaking mass. She peeled it back and I was drenched in sweat. She said, you looked like a frightened, besieged thing. And within that period, I realised then that if I didn't do something, I probably wasn't going to be around for very long. And somehow, I made a decision after that event to do something. And what had happened as well is, in between all this, I've been seeing my psychiatrist every 2 or 3 months. And I don't mind saying it, I had a CPN who would come round intermittently, and my psychiatrist would just say, carry on, take the pills. She would come round and not be very, not a lot of input really. Anyway, within this visit to the psychiatrist one day, he actually came out with a completely different viewpoint. He actually turned up and said to me, Rick, we're not getting anywhere, are we? And I went, no, we're not. I'm not going anywhere, you're not going anywhere, and I am a bit sick of this. And then I used the term, but he basically said, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to bounce you upstairs to my boss. I'm going to get someone else to take a look at you. I agreed to this, because he wasn't, and I wasn't going anymore, so I actually agreed to this. Within a couple of weeks of that meeting, I actually then went to see a consultant at Henneman House, who's the crisis team down there. And I basically walked into a room, and there was a guy sat down behind the table. He's looked up, and he's gone, Rick, what are you doing here? And I've looked at him and I've gone, I won't say his name, but blah blah, what are you doing there? I knew this man. I knew this man from 8 to 10 years earlier in my life, when I used to coach his children at squash. I'd had dinner around his house. I'd actually helped him tinker with some of his cars, because he used to be into repairing cars. And he's looked at me and he said, what the hell has happened here? And I've gone, and he's got my notes, and he said to me, psychotic depression, bordering on schizophrenia. And what he done, not a word of a lie, he put a pen straight through schizophrenia. You haven't got schizophrenia at all. Because you weren't exuding this behaviour and you wasn't doing this. I know you. You weren't doing this before. I'm going to actually get rid of that label. And that's what he called it. He said, I'm going to get rid of it. And actually, I had a bit of a, because I'd read I'm not a fan of normal media tabloids, but I'd read in the Guardian and all the other papers about the Mail about schizophrenia, and it's now attached to me, so it's quite good when it's gone off you. You have got psychotic depression, that's no doubt. Then you put my notes down. Basically put the notes down. And what he done then was, he said, come out with something which is, again, quite powerful. What are you going to do about this? And then we sat down, we formulated a plan. So I'm sat one side of the table, he sat on the other side of the table, and we had a chat. And what we spoke about initially was medication. What meds are you on? Olanzapine, risperidone, diazepam, blah, blah, blah. Okay. How would you feel if we started to get you off these? Because I said to him, I think these are big, bad meds. And he said, they are big, bad meds. And you're taking a lot of them. And I think it's actually having an impact. And I knew it was having an impact on me. So how would you be to get you off these pills? To weed you off them slowly and to get you onto an antidepressant with maybe a sleeping pill thrown in there. I agreed to that. One box, meds looked at. Triggers. What are your triggers? What do you think is causing some of these problems? I know there's a massive lack of sleep. I know you've not been taking care of business. You don't. And I actually said this to him, I'm not taking care of business because when you're unwell, you don't. I'd actually, by now, 3 or 4 years within this state, had built up massive dysfunctionality around my finances. I was in a lot of money trouble and I didn't even realise it. And it was suggested that maybe I might need to go bankrupt, because what else had been happening in my other life is the letters and all this stuff, and all the people were queuing up to come down on me over that. So it was actually put to me about bankruptcy. Again, I didn't like the sound of that, but thought, it's an option. Think about that. And as we move on, I did actually go bankrupt. I had to, which took a lot away, a lot of stress, believe it or not. You're sleeping. You don't sleep, do you, much? I said, no, I've got not. But he actually then spoke about sleep hygiene, about trying to look at some of the reasons as to why I wasn't sleeping and to actually address that. So we create another box, triggers, get rid of some of them, look at them. What about, what are you actually doing now? What do you do? And I'm in front of him. Bear in mind, he saw me years ago when I used to be a squash player, squash coach, and now I'm this lump of whatever. And I said, I don't do anything. I don't go out. I can't go out. Would you be prepared to, with your carer friend, start doing small little walks? But to help with that, we might just give you some relief to help with that. Would you be prepared to do some CBT? Which I agreed to. So I agreed to these things as well. And then, so that went into a box of actually starting to do something. Then we looked at the facts of my food and my diet, which was bad. Well, I didn't think it was bad, it was bad. So we agreed, I agreed with him and then agreed with my friend Kara to maybe start to cut out the sugar, cut out the salt, cut out the fizzy drinks, cut out basically the rubbish and try to put me onto a much healthier diet. And I left his office and I kicked these things in pretty well straight away. Very slowly though. It took about 18 months of addressing it back. And I got on with it really. I went and saw him 3 months after that and reported back to him, and I'd reduced my risperidone and reduced it and just went through the next period of just reducing, doing more, bigger walks, CBT, getting out more. I stretched the walks probably to half an hour. But what I would say though in this period, around that period, is I'd actually regain and reattach myself to who I was. Where I'd been lost and not doing things, I actually then kicked back into Rick. And I was able to, with support and help, attach to my values and the positive elements of my personality. When I was unwell, when you're unwell, you're not doing those things. Your self-esteem is low, your confidence is low, you think you're probably the worst thing walking on the planet, and you lose sight of your core essence. You can do. Not everyone does, but lots of people I should imagine, and I did, lose sight of my core essence. And I didn't like myself either through all this, so. And one of the things I did attach to, which from my life beforehand, I'd always, and without being rude, I'm not really fussed about other people. You know, people have their values, but that's theirs. My values and my core essence are mine. And I used to think to myself that I basically came from a place of integrity around me. And I felt that through my illness, I'd lost that. I'd lost integrity around who I was. So when I started to turn the corner and things started to be dressed backwards and more lucid, rational thinking and behaviour started to come in, that was one of the things I really, really went after, was to refine the integrity around me again. And I did. I just went on that journey. Now, within all this, what I'm saying, what had happened and pushed me to a point of moving forward was, I like to think there was an acceptance around what was going on for me, but there was also me taking a certain amount of responsibility around me. And it's also a point of like, I've got to get on with this, get on with it now. And with the elements from seeing the consultant, me moving forward, I really, really, within quite a short space of time, started to see a positive shift. The interventions with the crisis team actually got less and less. My sleep patterns got better. My anxiety levels got better, the CBT helped, the belief system started to be cracked, you know, even to a little extent, but it is better than no extent. And I was able to then basically fill some of the voids with positive stuff. The weight started to come off, better food. So basically what I'm saying is all the elements I addressed about me, put them all in and then applied them. And I haven't written it down there, but I call it selfness. Not being selfish, but selfness. And selfness to me is, I have to find and be myself at whatever cost. And within that, I had to negotiate with my carer friend, negotiate with my family and friends about this journey I had to go on for self, for Rick. And I've done this with professionals, as I said, with the most important people around me, because I had to go and find out and save and be Rick. And I've done it through just applying all these things around me. Now, I've been accused, and it doesn't matter, I've actually been accused at this period of being selfish. No, it's not selfish. If you've been to where I've been, and you get an opportunity or a gateway to actually do something about yourself, you do it. And if people around you perceive that as being whatever, that's their problem. And I truly believe that, you know, and that's, without getting too spicy about that, that's what I really do believe, that you have to. If you've reached a point in your life and you've got the opportunity to turn it around and save it, you will do it. Human instinct. You know, I could have taken the other option, and I didn't. So, I basically rebuilt my life actually, and I now have a much more greater acceptance and appreciation of life and of myself as well. I'm back coaching again. I'm physically fit again. That's probably 5 years now. I haven't had an episode for that long, and even now things might get a bit distorted, but they pass very quickly. I don't actually slide into stuff anymore. It's just a little fall. I'm still on medication. I take an antidepressant every day. But what I do now, and what I've learned to do, is self-manage. It's become a lifestyle thing, but it's become just part of me. I take care of all the good things I should be taking care of so that Rick stays functional and in a place of moving. And yeah, I've actually, it might not seem that I'm actually in a really, really good place now, a much more purposeful, rich place. And my life's got hope and meaning again. And what I do now is I do a little bit of work for the Dorset Mental Health Forum, hence why I'm here. And I've been with the forum now nearly 4 years, 3.5, 4 years, and I promote recovery really. I go around talking about my journey, what I've done around me getting to where I am now. And I teach on the REC, the Recovery Education Centre. I'm co-lead on work around BME agenda. I'm passionate about equality and inequalities, and within the forum I begin the platform to push that, because without getting into some rant, we're at a critical time on this planet about, and I've actually applied it to myself, and I just wish we'd apply it to ourselves as well, about tolerance, understanding around yourself and each other. And that gives me a place to go where I'm actually passionate about disadvantaged people, passionate about people who are on the wrong end of systems and society when most of it isn't their fault. And so I do a lot of work around that. I co-produce and deliver training and learning work with the local NHS Trust. And I'm actually, because I'm passionate about recovery as well, I go back to acute units, and I like the getting down and dirty with real people and patients on the wards and doing work around them. That's my real passion. And I feel that with the journey I've had, I've got something to offer in that sense. I'm content as best I can. I'm never fully contented, but that's life. I'm proud that I've actually got through the suffering and the pain, and I'm actually got to a place in my life where I can move on with it. And my family, my 2 daughters are back in my life. I love Dorset. I live in Dorset. I've lived here many years, and I'm just proud of myself and for the people around me that I've actually got to this point. From the journey before, so from distressing times and not a good space and not wanting to be here and not actually having any hope or purpose or reasons for being here, I've got to this point, and that's where I am now, and that's my talk. Thank you.